Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. Everything on the show today is big. Big power, big brothers, big sisters. Randi Thompson has the rundown.
Well, from Big Power, we have the folks from Granite Fox or Sempra Energy. We have Gil Coleman and Marty Swartz. And from Big Brothers and Big Sisters, we have Golish and Pat Fling. Coming up next.
And coming up on the Power Pundit panel today, Derek Morse, Harry York, and Joe Gill. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
When making your decision as where to play golf, consider the resort at Red Hawk. You know you have made the right choice the moment you arrive. The friendly staff welcomes you to our award-winning pro shop. You know you've made the right decision on the first tee. The Lakes course is in the best condition in years. You know you've made the right choice after you've played 18 holes. The resort at Red Hawk, the right choice.
Nevada Newsmakers is sponsored in part by the Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we'll welcome to the program two guests, Marty Swartz, who's with project development for Sempra's Granite Fox power plant near Gerlach, and Gil Coleman, who is a consultant from the University of Nevada, Reno on this project. And just to set it up, this is a coal-fired power plant that's going up near Gerlach. And your company, Sempra Energy, is a huge company. It's into electricity, natural gas, diverse energy solutions, has 13,000 employees based in San Diego. And this particular project is a $2 billion plus investment for your company, correct?
That is correct.
Well, I can't help but look at what the information that's come out lately. Your plant is about a $2 billion plant, and we've seen a lot of the impact that you guys are going to bring to the economy. Yet there's another proposed $2 billion plant that would do geothermal and provide the same amount of energy, or essentially kilowatts or megawatts. Wouldn't they have the same kind of economic benefit, and why not look at a cleaner technology than coal, since there's so much downside to coal?
Well, first of all, I think we believe in a diverse portfolio of energy. I mean, we want a balanced portfolio, a nice mix. We'd like to see coal, we'd like to see gas, we'd like to see renewables. I mean, coal is a very plentiful resource in this country. We can really rely on it. It's going to provide affordable, reliable, stable power in the future. Some of the other power projects that are being promoted out there, such as geothermal and some of the wind, we believe in promoting those as well. And that's why we're oversizing our electrical interconnection in order for those projects to be able to be added on to ours and get that power to market.
Now, there's also a renewable component of this project, is there not?
That is correct. We have oversized our interconnection, which is of that $2 billion, that's a $150 million investment just to make that interconnection into that DC line. So, projects like geothermal and wind have a hard time absorbing that kind of additional cost in order to make that interconnection possible. So we have oversized our interconnection by 200 megawatts to allow those renewables to, piggyback on top of a strong project like this that can afford that kind of interconnection cost.
I believe it was the San Francisco Board of Supervisors have objected to this project, which I think is outrageous to begin with. They have no business getting involved. But why are they getting involved? And there is a lot of opposition. In fact, I was stunned to look on the website to see just how much opposition from environmentalists there are.
Well, there's always going to be opposition from environmental groups on projects like this. That's just a fact of doing any type of large industrial project. It doesn't have to necessarily be a power project. But we really feel like they're concerned about promoting renewables and those other types of activities. We are promoting that. We're helping take advantage of renewables in this area that have no other way of getting out. There just isn't any infrastructure there to make that happen.
What did you think about the San Francisco board getting involved? Do they not need power in California? I heard
most of this power is going to be going to California.
I mean, with the record heat you have around here, and yesterday there was a record load in Reno area for Sierra Pacific. I mean, the West is growing. The West needs power. And what we really believe is it needs to be that balanced portfolio. And coal is a domestic source. We have more coal in this country than the OPEC nations have in oil on an energy equivalency basis.
I saw some notes in your material. It said we have about a 240-year supply of coal, somewhere in that neighborhood.
That is the current estimate of the reserves that we have in this country, 240 years of reserves.
So the cleaner technologies now, years ago I actually worked on this issue in the Clean Coal, the Clean Air Act of 1990. So the technology, though, has gotten further along to where you can reduce the CO2 emissions, the sulfur dioxide. What are you looking at in the sense of the potential for the pollution that can be caused versus what's happened before? Has the technology really advanced?
Yeah, the technologies have advanced a lot. We're proposing a supercritical unit, which is the latest state-of-the-art technology. It's used over in Japan, in Germany, Australia. These are all countries that have coal for an indigenous fuel, except for Japan. They import all their fuel. But those countries signed a Kyoto Agreement.
And we did not.
And we have not even. So we've taken this technology and it's used by countries that are sensitive about environmental impacts. These plants are up to 90% cleaner than plants that were built in the 80s. They're 10 to 12% more efficient, and all those things add up to a more environmentally friendly coal plant.
Okay, let's talk about the economic impact. I understand about 3,700 jobs during the construction process?
About 3,400 during the construction project, and then 300 more in the community for the operational phase. So it's a large project.
Okay, so what kind of accommodations are going to need to be made? Is Gerlach going to grow substantially in size because of in the initial building phase, and then there's a permanent increase in workforce of around 300 people?
Now, the first place, the construction sector of this local economy will provide a lot of the workers for that. They're already here. There will have to be an imported number of workers, but there's going to be a construction camp built out on the plant site for those people, and they come in, do their work, leave after a while. So there will be a construction camp built there right on site for those workers to come in and stay. And then when the plant goes into operation, the first place, it's 140 workers at the plant, 300 throughout the entire economy as the economic effects are felt. Those people, the studies that we've done at the University of Nevada show, will live probably in the North Valleys, out in Washoe County, and down by Fernley. They're probably not going to be living in Gerlach.
And what kind of economic impact is this going to bring?
About $500 million during the construction phase. It's a large construction project.
For several years, too.
For about 5 years is the construction project, and about $250 million in what I would consider profit to the governments. The amount of revenue that the taxpayers will receive, or that the taxes will be paid by the construction project, minus the cost of having it, of constructing the project. Once the project is built, and there's 300 more jobs in the economy, good jobs in the economy. There would be an effect of about $20 million a year, about $14 million a year in the economy. But the real benefit, once the project is online, is in the fiscal area, because it will become the largest taxpayer in Washoe County. It's the largest industrial project ever built in Washoe County. And it will provide about 17 times more tax revenue than it will cost the county and the governments in this area to host it. So it will effectively lower the tax burden on the average person in this area.
We're way over time, but I just want to ask you one quick question here. I noticed in your notes that there is the potential for an intertie into Sierra Pacific. So at some point, if Nevada needed this power, it will be made available to Nevada?
Well, as we move through the development of this project and the permitting, we still have a year and a half to go, at least, on the permitting of this project. So, I mean, as we move closer and closer to making that a reality, then we'll start getting interest, from parties about purchasing the power. I mean, but
it would be available to Nevada
if that's what Sierra Pacific wanted to do. They wanted to enter into a contract to purchase power. We'd make that power available to Nevada.
And that's where we got to leave it. We thank you very much for being here, gentlemen. Back on Nevada Newsmakers right after this. Great discussion. Thank you.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
My family started this business 27 years ago.
We work hard to serve our customers and our community.
But it's getting harder and harder to keep the doors open.
For example, our workers' comp is going through the roof. Isn't anyone on my side anymore?
The Retail Association of Nevada is. If you're a small business owner, we can cut your workers' comp by up to 50%, lobby for your interests, and keep you informed. Put us to work today.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Peppermill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Peppermill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Peppermill. Where are you dining?
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're joined by Pat Fling, who's the Executive Director of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Nevada, and the Reverend Gene Golish with the Reaching for the Stars program. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
This new program, Reaching for the Stars, that's associated with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and it's based upon, as I understand it, that there are more than 20,000 Nevada children with one or more parents serving sentences in prison. And I mean, that's a huge number right there. And what your organization is doing is working with Big Brothers and Big Sisters to provide mentors. Is that correct?
That's right. Because out of those 20,000 children that are children of prisoners, 14,000 of those will have a potential of ending up in prison themselves, because 70% of the children of inmates end up in prison.
Those are staggering statistics.
Yes.
They are frightening. So this is new to Nevada, but it's not a new program nationally. Can you give us a little history on the program itself?
It started in the year 2000 in Philadelphia. Private and Public Ventures consulting firm studied to see what would be the best way to change the statistics, and they decided that mentoring would be, and their studies also showed that Big Brothers Big Sisters was the mentoring program to work this. And they began it with the Reverend Good in Philadelphia, and within 2 years he had 400 matches, and now there's up to 1,000 children of inmates that have been matched with big brothers and big sisters.
Okay, so the big question, Pat, is what has been the results of this program so far?
Really amazing results. Children who have a big brother or big sister are a lot less likely to become incarcerated themselves, and they're 70% more likely without this program. Also, children who have a big brother or big sister are less likely to use alcohol and drugs, less likely to become pregnant as a teen. They have an improved attitude about school, improved school performance, less likely to lie to a parent, better relationships with other people, family members, other adults. So it really has a ripple effect in so many areas of kids' lives.
Now, how many kids are involved locally in Big Brothers and Big Sisters?
We have 279 children matched right now with Big Brothers and Big Sisters here locally.
And now what's your goal for this program?
We'd like to match 300 children here locally with Big Brothers and Big Sisters who have parents in prison. I'm a big sister also, and my little brother has a mom in prison, a stepfather in prison, and a biological father in prison. So you can imagine the impact on him having all these people in prison.
If you would share a conversation, perhaps, of one that you've had with your child here?
Sure. One day he said to me, "My mom is going to be in prison until I'm 21. Do you think she's going to remember me?"
Oh, my goodness.
Just devastating. He was actually with his parents when they were arrested in the car.
How old was he?
This was about 4 or 5 years ago, so he was about 7 years old.
Oh my gosh, what an impression.
Oh, terrible impression. His impression of adults has been so negative. Early on when I first met him, he said something to me one day about thinking that all adults abuse alcohol and drugs, because in his immediate circle, that's what he had been exposed to. So I started talking to him about, well, that's not true for me, and it's not true of our other big brothers and big sisters, and that's almost 300 people, and that's true of a lot of other people right here in Reno who aren't abusing drugs and alcohol. But that was a whole new piece of information for him. He had never thought that because of what he had been exposed to. It's amazing what we take for granted in our lives. I took him to a library for the first time, a public library. He had never been to a public library.
What was his response?
He thought that you had to be wealthy or the elite to use a library. He didn't know that the average person could get a library card and check out books because no one in his immediate family had ever done that, that he had seen. So he was overjoyed. His favorite activity now is going to the library with me and getting out books. He loves to read. So
amazing influence.
That really is incredible. Reverend Golish, this is a faith-based initiative, and that's what President Bush wanted in his first term, was to see more of this. Do you get funding from the federal government? How does this work?
Yes, we have a grant, the faith-based grant, from the federal government to do this program. And I go into the faith-based communities, churches, synagogues, mosques, to recruit the big brothers and big sisters. And then I go into the prisons and talk with social services, CASAs, those kind of people, in order to get the children signed up so we can have them be a part of our program.
May I ask what kind of funding you get in dollar figures?
We're currently getting $250,000 from the federal government for this program.
Seems pretty inexpensive to save 300 kids at a time.
Exactly. But one of the big challenges we have and that Gene faces is finding the children. The children are pretty invisible because often this is not something families really talk about to others, that they have a family member in prison. So Gene's job really is to find the children. He's going into the prisons, talking to the inmates, asking them to tell him about their children so that we can identify them and match them with a big brother or big sister.
Are they receptive? I mean, I would think they wouldn't want their child to follow their footsteps.
Right. The mothers especially are very receptive.
Yeah.
I was in Las Vegas last week, or the beginning of this week, and all the women that were in that meeting signed up their children.
Okay, so now, because I think when we originally were in contact with you, it was only in northern Nevada, so now it's expanded to southern Nevada as well?
No, it's just that there's women in the southern, that's the only prison.
The female prison, that's right.
In Nevada, so.
There was an interesting story.
Actually, I hate to say this, we're out of time here, but let me ask you this, Pat. If people want to know more about this or want to be involved with this program, how do they get a hold of you?
They should call our office here in Reno, 352-3202, to get more information. It's really easy to become a big brother or big sister.
Okay, and it's area code 775, and we'll put it on the websites under Nevada Newsmakers logo on KBBC and KRNV.com, and so you can check that out. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
we
you.
We really appreciate it. Great program.
Thank you for what you're doing.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Since its creation more than a decade ago, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has focused on 3 goals: preserving water quality, improving water conservation in Southern Nevada, and meeting the community's current and future water needs. Through thoughtful planning, responsible management, and collaboration, it's succeeding. As we move into the 21st century, the authority continues to embrace sustainable water development and efficient water use. That's our promise to Nevada.
When making your decision as where to play golf, consider the resort at Red Hawk. You know you have made the right choice the moment you arrive. The friendly staff welcomes you to our award-winning pro shop. You know you've made the right decision on the first tee. The Lakes course is in the best condition in years. You know you've made the right choice after you've played 18 holes. The resort at Red Hawk, the right choice.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seem to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you. And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
Back on Nevada News. Would you shush?
I'm sorry. There's a lot to talk about. Come
Back on Nevada Newsmakers. Time for our Pundit panel. And joining us today, Attorney Joe Gill, Derek Morse with the Regional Transportation Commission of Northern Nevada, and Harry York with the Reno-Sparks Chamber of Commerce. And Randy has said that I cannot go on about needing a federal shield law today.
No.
Or talking
about
Judith
domain,
Miller.
no.
Or
Yeah,
Judith Miller.
No shield law.
So
no, we've got a great crowd for eminent domain.
Okay, well, we've done that one.
Okay.
What I want to
darn.
I'm always talking about the need to read more than one newspaper, to watch more than one television news program, because you get a different perspective from reading all of those, and then you can decide for yourself. And that came up today in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Sean Whaley wrote an article about an informal discussion with the reporters with the governor, and the headline here is, Beer's decision pleases Gwynn. Bob Beer's getting into the governor's race. On the other hand, you have Anjanette Damon in the Reno Gazette-Journal's headline says, budget setting off sparks between governor and Beers.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, what do you think?
Well, I went on the RJ website, which I do every morning, and saw the same thing and noticed the contrast. Well, you're in the news game. Don't you guys look for controversy?
What? Not on this program.
But I think that the real message there is interesting, and that if you look behind the story, Bob Beers is being seriously considered as a candidate. Obviously, if the governor's paying attention to him, and that'll make a huge difference in the Republican primary. So.
I find it interesting that, with Jim Gibbons and Bob Beers, you have two people certainly in the same corner fiscally, wouldn't you say, Harry?
Mm-hmm. Both very, very conservative. I think right now Beers certainly would be more aware of Nevada issues and money issues. He's a very bright guy.
The governor, Derek, really just seems to be wanting to pick, the candidates of his choice. And I'm not sure that Bob Beers is necessarily one. I think I would lean more towards Anjanette's take on the story.
Well, the perspective presented by someone like Bob, it's a valid one. I'm not saying it's right or that I personally agree with it in all aspects, but it's valid. It's got to be part of the debate. And that's what the primary is going to be about, is do you want to go in that direction? Do you want to pick a more moderate course as Governor Gwynn has steered? And I think he made another comment there, which is very true. When you get into that driver's seat, it's really different than when you're out there legislating. The legislators don't have to do, but as a governor, as a chief executive officer, you have to do, and it's a lot more complex than anyone thinks when you get in that seat. And so they're always tempered once they get into that seat, no matter who it is.
But I think Bob grew a lot this session compared to where he was before. I think He was more conservative in the Assembly side, and I think he learned in watching Bill Raggio and some others that you have to get things done. And to get things done, you have to moderate a little bit and back off of your position.
Okay, Randy, how do you look at the Republican primary, which is where this is all going to play out?
Well, but right now, if it's between these two, it's tough because you do have two fiscal conservatives, and they're going to just beat up each other on who's more conservative or who's done more. You've got Bob Beers, that I agree with Harry. He did do an incredible job in facilitating some activities. But then you have Gibbons, who did the Gibbons Tax Exchange Initiative and kind of started this whole battle. But it'll be interesting to see who else gets into it, because this is not just going to be the two of them.
Lorraine Hunt has already announced that she's going to run. She's not a proven statewide person, but she...
Why has she won twice for lieutenant governor?
Well, no, but I mean, in a position of some authority and meaning. But she was a two-term county commissioner in Clark County.
And she's tough as nails.
She knows budgets. She worked with budgets on the county level.
And she's a businesswoman?
And she's been a business person her entire life. So, there's a moderating situation there, too. And not to sound sexist, but if you add a woman component to a three-person primary, that makes the political dynamic different as well. And you're right, she's won statewide twice as lieutenant governor. So,
and I watched her on this very program a couple of years back wipe the floor with Aaron Kenney when Aaron Kenney was just going after her in the most vicious way, and she didn't take it, and she knocked her out.
Yeah.
And
well, Lorraine Hunt also has a presence.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, all,
she does.
all the time. Yeah.
Well, you could have a repeat of 94 where John Mason and Bruce Lane were the top runners in the lieutenant governor's race, and they beat up each other so much we got Lonnie Hammergren. I mean, if this does get ugly between Bob and Jim, Lorraine can just sit back and win without too much trouble.
Nobody can accuse either Bob or Jim of being Lonnie Hammergren.
No, that's not. Nor is Lorraine Hunt.
The personality just doesn't fit.
No, but that's why Lonnie won, because everybody else beat up on each other so much.
That's true,
so it'll be interesting too to see how specific they get. It's easy to talk about being conservative, but when you start saying, I'm going to cut your program, I'm going to cut your program, and that starts to make people think about what happens when the legislature goes in session, we try and ram this through, and who's going to get hurt, then all of a sudden people get a little gun-shy about that because everyone's got an interest. And I'll tell you, this state, I just don't see any dramatic cuts. I can see someone saying we're going to hold the line, but I just don't see that there's an appetite to say we're going to do these dramatic cuts.
Not with the growth we have.
Governor Gwynn got it right in both articles. We are the fastest growing
There's no reason to cut.
state in the country. We have a huge growing economy. So there are some significant pressures on the executive branch budget because of that, I think.
Well, and it's going to be interesting. John Ralston floated the idea the other day that Jim Rogers, the owner of Sunbelt Broadcasting, who owns these stations, may run as an independent, and that's a topic for another day. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
Don't forget, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers online. We keep 2 weeks worth of shows on there at NevadaNewsmakers.com. It's streaming video.
Very cool. And tomorrow we have the Captain Roy Rogers, who'll talk about experimental aircraft, and Michelle Poche from Washoe County, who used to work for Norm Mineta when he was Secretary of Transportation during 9/11.
A very timely interview. We'll see you tomorrow.